Silence is one of the most misunderstood aspects of human existence. Most people hear silence and immediately associate it with absence. The absence of sound, the absence of movement, the absence of something happening. But true silence is not an absence. It is a form of deep presence that does not seek validation, does not crave noise, and does not require attention. It is a state where life breathes without interference, where awareness observes without judging, and where being itself becomes enough. In a world that constantly demands you to speak, to express, to respond, to react, silence becomes a form of rebellion. It is the quiet refusal to be dragged into the chaos of endless conversations, meaningless noise, and reactive emotions. It is not passivity, it is power. Because silence teaches you to listen to what cannot be spoken. When the mind quiets, you begin to hear the whisper of existence itself, the subtle pulse of energy that animates everything around you. Most people live with an internal storm that never rests. Their thoughts jump from one worry to another, replaying the past, anticipating the future, constructing identities out of chaos. This constant mental chatter becomes so normal that they fear what happens when it stops. They equate silence with emptiness because they have never experienced themselves beyond their thoughts. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is what remains when the unnecessary dissolves. It is not nothingness, it is everythingness without noise. It is where life reveals itself without distortion. To enter silence is to come home to yourself. It is to rediscover the space that exists before words, before judgments, before stories. This silence does not need to be achieved through force. It unfolds naturally when one stops clinging to thoughts and emotions as identities. The mind loves to label, to define, to analyze, but silence is beyond labels. It cannot be captured through explanation. It can only be lived. When you begin to sit in silence, something profound starts to shift within you. The restlessness that once drove your actions begins to soften. You realize that much of your energy was wasted in mental conversations that led nowhere. In silence, you discover how much of life's beauty was drowned out by your own noise. You notice the subtleties, the sound of your breath, the hum of the world, the rhythm of your heart. Everything slows, but nothing is lost. Instead, everything becomes clearer. Silence is not against sound. It gives sound its meaning. Without silence, there would be no music, no pause, no contrast. Silence frames existence the way space frames form. It allows life to unfold. In the same way, inner silence frames your experiences, giving depth to every emotion and thought. When you cultivate inner silence, you are not suppressing life. You are giving it space to reveal its true form. In that silence, awareness sharpens. You begin to sense the energy behind actions, the intention behind words, the vibration behind thoughts. You are no longer pulled by impulses or reactions. You move with clarity, with calmness. Presence without demand means that you are fully here, fully awake, but without the need to control what unfolds. You are not trying to make life fit your plan. You are aligning yourself with what already is. This form of silence does not mean cutting off from the world. You can speak, you can act, you can engage, but from a deeper stillness. When you speak from silence, your words carry weight. When you move from silence, your actions carry precision. When you look from silence, your perception carries truth. It is not a silence that hides, it is a silence that reveals. The modern world often mistakes loudness for strength. It celebrates opinions, arguments, and declarations. But the greatest strength often exists in quiet confidence. The kind that does not need to prove, the kind that does not demand recognition. Silence is not fragile. It does not crumble under the pressure of chaos. It absorbs it, transforms it, and reflects back peace. Presence without demand means allowing existence to flow without insisting it must please you. It means witnessing joy and sorrow with equal attention, knowing both are part of the dance. It means being here not to take but to experience. It is a surrender without loss, a release without absence. It is the art of being open without expectation. When silence becomes your foundation, the mind loses its dominance. Thoughts still arise, but they do not rule you. Emotions still move, but they do not drown you. You become the still surface beneath the waves, not the waves themselves. In that stillness, wisdom emerges naturally, not through analysis, but through direct perception. You see reality as it is, not as your mind wants it to be. True silence is a living presence. It is not something you find in a cave or a mountain. It is something that unfolds within you, in the middle of life itself. It is the space that allows love to exist without possession, awareness to exist without control, and life to exist without resistance, silence is not an escape from the world, it is an entry into its true essence. It allows you to meet existence without masks, without the noise of your own interpretations. It is the awareness that does not demand, it simply is. When you live from that silence, you stop seeking peace outside because you have become the source of peace itself. Silence, then, is not the absence of life. It is the fullness of life untouched by noise. It is not the end of experience. It is the beginning of true seeing. It is not emptiness. It is presence. Vast, infinite, unbound by words, unshaken by time, and always waiting for the one who dares to listen. There is a deep paradox in life that few understand until they have suffered enough to see it. We chase after things, people, and outcomes, believing that holding on tightly will keep them close. We think attachment means love, that control means safety, and that proximity guarantees connection. Yet, the more we cling, the more we suffocate what we love. The tighter our grip, the faster things slip through our fingers. Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is not rejection, it is reverence. To detach is not to withdraw, but to allow. It is the recognition that the essence of life cannot be possessed, it can only be experienced. Attachment is born from fear, fear of loss, fear of change, fear of the unknown. The mind attaches because it seeks permanence in a world that is constantly moving. But everything that exists in nature teaches us otherwise. The river does not hold on to the stones it passes, it flows around them, shaping them gently through time. The wind does not cling to the trees, it moves freely, dancing between their branches. The sun does not demand the flower to bloom, it simply shines, allowing the flower to open in its own time. Detachment, therefore, is living in harmony with the laws of nature. A state where we trust that what is meant to stay will stay, and what is meant to go will go. When you are detached, you begin to experience the world from a place of awareness instead of reaction. You are no longer enslaved by your emotions or defined by your desires. You start to see relationships, ambitions, and possessions for what they are, temporary expressions of energy passing through your life. You appreciate them fully, yet you do not lose yourself in them. You learn to give love without expecting return, to act without the need for validation, to give your best without being consumed by the result. In this way, detachment becomes a higher form of love, a purer form of service, a deeper form of connection. Most people mistake attachment for care. They believe that by worrying, by controlling, by insisting, they are showing love. But attachment is a form of dependence. It drains both the giver and the receiver. It comes from a place of lack, from the belief that without this person or this outcome, you are incomplete. Detachment, on the other hand, arises from wholeness. It is born when you have cultivated inner peace, when you no longer seek completion through others or through circumstances. When you are detached, you love from fullness, not from fear. You no longer say, I need you to make me happy. You say, I share my happiness with you. That shift transforms every relationship, every dream, every part of your existence. To practice detachment is to trust life deeply. It is to let go of your insistence on how things should unfold. The ego constantly wants to direct the flow, to decide who should stay, when things should happen, and how the story should end. But the universe operates on a rhythm far greater than our understanding. When you surrender to that rhythm, you stop fighting reality and begin to move with it. You begin to see that everything that leaves creates space for something greater to arrive. Every ending is a doorway to a new beginning. Every loss carries the seed of expansion. Detachment gives birth to freedom, and freedom gives birth to connection. When you are free, you allow others to be free. You stop projecting your needs onto them, stop demanding that they fill the spaces within you. In that freedom, genuine connection flourishes, not out of dependency, but out of mutual respect and energetic alignment. You no longer love because you fear being alone. You love because love itself becomes your nature. You no longer hold on to people or outcomes, you flow with them. You no longer try to control what happens, you trust the wisdom that guides all things. When you are detached, your perception sharpens. You begin to notice the subtle movements of life. The way a single moment can hold infinite meaning, the way silence can carry truth louder than words, the way letting go can bring what holding on never could. Detachment teaches you patience, because you realize that everything unfolds in its own perfect time. It teaches you compassion, because you understand that everyone walks their own path. It teaches you humility because you see that nothing truly belongs to you. The practice of detachment is not something that happens once, it is a continuous surrender. Each day, life asks you to release something. An expectation, an identity, a fear, a desire. Each time you let go, you return closer to your true nature, which is spacious and still. Detachment is not a denial of emotion, it is the mastery of it. You still feel deeply, but you do not drown in feeling. You still care profoundly, but you do not lose your peace. You still participate in life fully, but you remain rooted in the awareness that everything is transient. Detachment does not make you indifferent, it makes you powerful. Because when you are detached, you cannot be manipulated by praise or destroyed by criticism. You cannot be broken by loss or blinded by gain. You become like a mountain, calm amidst the storm, unmoved by passing winds. The mountain does not chase the clouds, yet it touches the sky. It does not hold the sun, yet it glows in its light. Such is the power of detachment, silent, steady, and infinite. In truth, the highest form of connection arises when you no longer cling. When you no longer try to possess, you begin to understand presence. When you no longer chase, you begin to attract. When you no longer grasp for control, you begin to feel the pulse of something far greater moving through you. Detachment reveals that real connection is not built on dependency but on freedom, not on fear but on trust, not on ownership but on alignment. It is the realization that nothing is lost when you let go, because what is real never leaves. In a world that constantly demands movement, noise, and reaction, stillness becomes one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. Most people associate stillness with idleness, a lack of ambition, or even weakness. Yet in truth, stillness is a form of awareness so sharp, so deep, that it transcends the chaos around it. It is within stillness that curiosity is born. A curiosity not about the outer world, but about the self. When the mind stops racing, when thoughts begin to settle, the subtle layers of life reveal themselves. The individual begins to see not what they were told to see, but what truly is. Stillness is not about the absence of motion, but the mastery of attention. The body may be calm, but the awareness is wide awake, observing the constant flow of thoughts, sensations, and emotions passing like clouds in the sky. In this state, the question arises, who is it that observes? What is the source of these endless movements? That question, quiet, profound, and sincere, is the beginning of curiosity. True curiosity is not intellectual, it is existential. It is the yearning to understand the unseen patterns behind our actions, the invisible motives behind our desires, and the deep, still current beneath the surface waves of our daily lives. When one is still, the noise of the world no longer dictates direction. The opinions of others, the urgency of time, the pressure of comparison, all begin to lose their grip. This is when curiosity awakens naturally. The still mind starts to wonder, why do I react this way? What happens if I do not follow the same pattern today? What lies behind the feeling I often avoid? Curiosity begins to untangle the knots that years of conditioning have tied. It does not judge, it observes. It does not rush to fix, it seeks to understand. In that understanding, transformation slowly begins to take place, not by force, but by the gentle power of awareness itself. Stillness opens the door to the inner landscape. In stillness, the senses sharpen, sounds become clearer, the rhythm of breath becomes noticeable, and the pulse of life feels present in every cell. The more one observes, the deeper the curiosity grows. The mind that was once occupied by endless desires and distractions begins to inquire into its own nature. The question shifts from, what do I want, to, who is wanting? This shift is the birth of true learning, a learning that does not rely on books or teachings, but on direct experience. Curiosity that arises from stillness is fearless. It does not seek comfort, it seeks truth. When the surface mind is quiet, buried emotions rise, forgotten memories appear, and hidden motives come into light. Many avoid stillness because of this, because silence reveals what noise conceals. But those who have the courage to remain still discover that the storm within cannot harm them. They begin to see that every emotion, no matter how intense, comes and goes. The observer remains untouched. This realization deepens curiosity even more. What is this observer that cannot be disturbed? What is this awareness that watches everything yet is affected by nothing? Through stillness, one becomes a witness of life rather than a prisoner of it. Reactions transform into responses. Impulses transform into insights. Curiosity becomes the bridge between confusion and clarity. In stillness, curiosity does not die. It evolves. It becomes less about collecting information and more about uncovering truth. It asks not, how do I gain more? But, what can I release to see more clearly? It starts to recognize that wisdom does not come from accumulation, but from emptying. When stillness is practiced, one notices that even thoughts have their own rhythm, arising, staying, and dissolving. When there is no interference, this natural rhythm becomes obvious. The mind becomes a mirror reflecting reality as it is. In that reflection, curiosity becomes endless because every moment reveals something new. The way light falls on a wall, the sound of wind moving through leaves, the sensation of air entering the lungs, all become lessons in awareness. What was once ordinary becomes sacred, and what was once ignored becomes the center of observation. Stillness does not create curiosity through effort. It allows curiosity to return to its natural state. Every child is born curious because every child is born close to stillness. Their minds are open, unburdened by memory, expectation, or identity. As life progresses, noise replaces silence and conditioning replaces wonder. Stillness reverses this process. It clears the mental fog and restores the innate curiosity that connects us to the mystery of existence. When curiosity matures through stillness, it begins to move inwardly. It no longer seeks to understand the mechanics of the world, but the essence behind it. It begins to sense that the same intelligence that moves the stars also breathes through the human body. It wonders about the unity between the inner and the outer, the self and the universe. And in that wonder, humility arises, a deep recognition that we are both the question and the answer, both the seeker and the sought. Stillness teaches that curiosity is not about finding an end, but about living the inquiry itself. Every breath, every heartbeat, every silence becomes a doorway to understanding. The individual who lives in stillness walks through life with eyes open to the unseen and ears tuned to the unspoken. They do not rush toward conclusions, for they know that conclusions end curiosity, and the end of curiosity is the beginning of ignorance. They remain in the question, not as doubt, but as awareness. Through stillness, curiosity becomes the flame that never burns out, quiet yet constant, subtle yet powerful, revealing layer after layer of truth that the restless mind could never see in a world obsessed with being seen, with being noticed, with capturing likes, views, and validation. We often forget that true impact doesn't arise from how much attention we gather. It comes from the energy we radiate. Energy is not something we perform for the world to see. It's the quiet, unseen vibration that moves before our words, before our gestures, before our presence enters a space. Long before you speak, long before you act, your energy has already spoken for you. It tells people who you are without a single introduction. Many people spend their lives chasing attention because they confuse being noticed with being powerful. But attention is fragile. It fades as quickly as it arrives. It's conditional, dependent on trends, moods, and external validation. Energy, however, is timeless. It is not bound by perception. It is an expression of your alignment, your integrity, your truth. When your energy is strong, you no longer need to demand to be seen. Presence replaces performance. People feel you even when you say nothing. That is real power, the kind that cannot be faked or borrowed. When a person's energy is chaotic, no amount of charm or eloquence can hide it. You can say all the right words, wear all the right expressions, but energy always reveals what is hidden beneath the surface. It carries the weight of your intentions, your fears, and your state of mind. Energy is the language of authenticity. It exposes what attention tries to conceal. You can tell when someone is speaking from ego or truth, even if their words sound beautiful. The frequency doesn't lie. We live in an age of overstimulation, where attention has become currency and silence feels uncomfortable. But the more we chase attention, the more we disconnect from our own energy. Because to seek constant attention is to say, what I am within is not enough. And that belief creates noise inside you. Energy thrives in stillness. It needs space to breathe, to expand, to recalibrate. When your energy is unsettled, every attempt to gain attention becomes desperate, shallow, and draining. But when your energy is balanced, calm, and grounded, your presence alone becomes magnetic. You stop chasing and you start attracting. Every interaction you have, whether with people, nature, or yourself, is an exchange of energy. It's not what you say, but how you exist that creates resonance. There are people who barely speak, yet their presence brings comfort. And there are others who speak loudly, yet leave only emptiness behind. This is the difference between energy that flows and energy that demands. Flowing energy connects, demanding energy repels. When you learn to cultivate inner alignment, your energy begins to move with grace, and you realize that what truly influences others is not your appearance or your voice, but the vibration behind both. To cultivate energy that speaks louder than attention, one must learn to guard it carefully. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not every noise deserves your response. Each time you react without awareness, you leak energy. Each time you engage in meaningless conflict, you drain your life force. Energy is sacred. It must be directed with precision. The more you learn to stay still within the noise, the more powerful your energy becomes. The person who can hold peace in chaos is the one who truly commands it. Many misunderstand silence as weakness, but silence, when grounded in awareness, is a roar that only the sensitive can hear. Silence is not absence, it's presence condensed. When you cultivate inner stillness, your energy becomes refined, concentrated, and potent. The quieter your mind, the stronger your vibration. You no longer need to prove your worth. Your energy becomes proof of your growth. You no longer need to explain your intentions. Your vibration carries them effortlessly. Attention demands performance. Energy demands authenticity. When you live for attention, you are constantly adjusting yourself to meet others' expectations. You begin to wear masks, edit your emotions, and shape your actions for approval. But energy doesn't negotiate, it mirrors your inner truth. If your energy is aligned, it will communicate that alignment naturally. You won't have to convince anyone of your worth. You will simply be, and your being will speak for itself. Everything in life is vibration. When your energy is low, you attract confusion, friction, and resistance. When your energy is clear, you attract clarity, peace, and synchronicity. Energy creates your reality long before your actions manifest it. You can't fake a vibration. The universe doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your frequency. You might say, I want peace, but if your energy radiates anxiety, that is what will return to you. You might say, I am abundant, but if your energy carries scarcity, you'll keep meeting lack. Energy is the true communicator between you and life. When you shift from chasing attention to nurturing energy, everything about your existence transforms. You stop forcing outcomes and start allowing flow. You begin to understand that real influence doesn't come from being the loudest in the room. It comes from being the most centered. The power of your energy lies in its consistency, not in its visibility. You don't have to announce your growth. Your energy will announce it for you. Every breath, every thought, every emotion you carry is energy. You are constantly broadcasting signals into the world, whether you realize it or not. The question is, what is your energy saying when you're silent? What does your presence communicate when you walk into a space? If your energy is filled with gratitude, peace, and purpose, you'll naturally uplift others without trying. But if it's clouded by comparison, anger, or need for validation, that too will be felt. Energy has no disguise. It always tells the truth. To move through life with awareness of your energy is to reclaim your power. You stop chasing what is fleeting and start embodying what is eternal. You begin to see that the real transformation doesn't happen when people notice you. It happens when your energy begins to radiate so purely that the world can't help but respond to it. Energy doesn't shout. It hums quietly, steadily, and surely. It travels beyond words, beyond time, beyond attention. And in that quiet vibration lies the most undeniable form of strength. In a world where validation is often mistaken for love and approval becomes the currency of worth, there is a deeper, quieter force that determines what and who we attract into our lives. Self-respect. It is not built through applause or recognition. It is cultivated through the subtle art of boundaries, discipline, and alignment with one's own values. Self-respect is the energetic language the universe listens to long before words are spoken. It is the invisible vibration that communicates to everything around you how you expect to be treated, what you are ready to receive, and what you will no longer tolerate. When you truly respect yourself, you no longer chase validation or attention, because you are rooted in the understanding that your energy is sacred. You become selective. Not out of arrogance, but from awareness. You begin to realize that every interaction is an exchange of time, emotion, and vibration. The moment you compromise yourself, respect to please others, you dilute your own power. The universe mirrors that weakness back to you in the form of disrespect, neglect, and imbalance. But when you stand firm in your value, the world responds in kind, aligning circumstances and people that reflect that same frequency. Self-respect begins in the smallest decisions. It's in the choice to walk away from conversations that drain your peace. It's in the way you show up for yourself when no one is watching. How you care for your body, how you manage your thoughts, how you honor your emotions without letting them control you. Every small act of self-discipline, every moment you choose peace over drama and purpose over distraction, you send a message to the universe: I am ready for more. Respect is not a performance. It is a quiet, consistent relationship with yourself that deepens through truth and clarity. When you move with self-respect, your energy becomes clean. You no longer cling to people who do not value you because you no longer need them to. You stop explaining your worth to those who are not capable of seeing it. You stop arguing to prove your point because your presence itself speaks it. In silence, you begin to attract what aligns, not because you demanded it, but because you became it. You radiate calm confidence and others feel it before you speak. You become magnetic, not for what you do, but for what you embody. Many people confuse self-respect with ego, but they are not the same. Ego seeks superiority, self-respect seeks balance. Ego demands attention, self-respect commands it naturally. Ego is loud and reactive. Self-respect is grounded and still. When you operate from ego, you depend on external recognition to feel worthy. But when you move from self-respect, you generate that recognition from within. You stop depending on others to validate your value because you already live it. That shift changes everything. Your relationships, your decisions, your energy, your future. The way you treat yourself teaches others how to treat you. When you allow disrespect in any form, from others or from your own habits, you teach the world that you are willing to settle. The energy of attraction does not respond to what you wish for. It responds to what you allow and what you believe you deserve. If you constantly give more than you receive, tolerate behavior that disrespects your peace, or ignore your intuition to avoid conflict, you are communicating a frequency of self-neglect. The universe cannot send respect into a space where self-respect is absent. Self-respect is not built overnight. It is forged through choices that often feel uncomfortable. Saying no when you used to say yes. Leaving situations that no longer nurture your growth. Standing in truth when silence would be easier. It's a process of shedding people, pleasing habits, unlearning dependency, and trusting that solitude is not loneliness but alignment. When you respect yourself enough to release what is not meant for you, you create space for what is. You stop trying to attract from a place of lack and start attracting from a place of fullness. There is immense power in quiet self-assurance, the kind that doesn't need to prove or perform. It's the energy that says, I am enough as I am. That statement, when lived authentically, becomes a magnet. Because everything in the universe responds to authenticity. People are drawn to clarity, to those who know who they are and what they stand for. The more you know your worth, the less you seek outside approval, and the more the world begins to respect and reflect your truth. Self-respect also involves accountability. You cannot claim to respect yourself while ignoring your own growth. You cannot demand loyalty while betraying your own goals. You cannot speak of love while allowing fear to control your actions. Respect means responsibility, taking ownership of your emotions, actions, and boundaries. It means holding yourself to the same standard you expect from others. When you start living with integrity, your energy aligns with truth, and truth attracts truth. Attraction is not a mystery, it is a mirror. What you embody, you attract. What you neglect, you repel. The more you respect yourself, the clearer your energy becomes, and clarity is magnetic. It draws toward you opportunities that resonate with your highest potential. It protects you from connections built on illusion. It strengthens your intuition, allowing you to sense what belongs and what doesn't before words are even spoken. This is how the universe communicates. Not through coincidence, but through reflection. When you master self-respect, your world rearranges itself around that mastery. Not because you force it, but because energy naturally organizes itself around strength. Respect yourself deeply enough to walk away from anything that disrupts your peace, to hold your silence when words are unnecessary, and to honor your path even when others don't understand it. The more you honor yourself, the less you crave from the outside world, and the more the outside world begins to give freely what you once chased. When you become whole within yourself, you stop chasing the illusion of completion through another. Most people are not truly in love with others. They are in love with the idea that someone else can fill the emptiness they have avoided within. They seek validation, attention, and presence from outside because they have not yet built it from within. The truth is, to be missed, you must be a complete presence in your own life first. When your energy is fragmented, people feel that you are seeking. But when your energy is whole, they feel your absence. Absence only holds power when it comes from fullness, not from lack. You cannot expect to be valued by another if you have not yet learned to value yourself in solitude. The way you treat your own silence determines how others will treat your presence. When you run from being alone, your energy communicates desperation. But when you are content in your solitude, your energy becomes magnetic. People sense it. They sense peace that does not demand, a stillness that does not chase, and a completeness that does not depend. Such energy cannot be ignored. It is remembered even when you are gone. To be whole without them means to stop looking for your reflection in their eyes. It means standing in front of the mirror of your own consciousness and accepting every part of yourself, the bright, the dark, the hidden, and the unpolished. It means knowing that your worth does not rise or fall with someone's approval. It means understanding that love shared is beautiful, but love needed becomes a burden. The moment you detach your sense of self from another person, you begin to experience freedom. That freedom is the essence of being whole. When you become whole, you move differently. You no longer text to be noticed. You no longer wait for a reply to feel seen. You no longer perform to keep someone's attention. You simply exist, present and grounded in your own reality. You begin to live for yourself, and in doing so, your energy becomes centered. And when your energy is centered, others feel the difference. They feel that something about you is unshakable, untouchable, unbothered. That is the moment they begin to notice your absence because your presence carried weight. Most people think being missed comes from leaving. But being missed actually comes from having once been fully there. When your presence nourishes, your absence creates hunger. When your words once brought clarity, your silence brings reflection. When your energy once calmed chaos, your distance awakens awareness. But all of that only happens when your presence is authentic, not dependent. If your identity was built around them, your absence will only bring relief, not longing. But if your identity was built around truth, your absence will echo. To be whole without them means you must heal the parts of yourself that cling. Clinging is not love, it is fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of emptiness. But emptiness is not your enemy, it is the space where strength is born. When you allow yourself to sit with your own company, you begin to see that solitude is not loneliness. It is meeting yourself fully. It is understanding that peace cannot come from another's return. It must rise from within. Wholeness is a vibration. It does not need to prove. It does not chase validation. It does not compare or compete. It simply radiates from the understanding that everything you seek already exists within you. The more you cultivate this state, the more you attract, not by effort, but by resonance. When you stop seeking, you start becoming. And in becoming, you start drawing. This is the paradox. The less you try to be remembered, the more unforgettable you become. Wholeness is built through awareness. Awareness of your emotional patterns, your expectations, and your attachments. Awareness of where your energy leaks through needing others to recognize your worth. You reclaim that energy by returning to yourself again and again, each time the mind wanders to what is missing. You breathe deeply and remind yourself that nothing external can sustain what you have not built internally. People who are whole move with quiet confidence. Their energy speaks before their words do. They do not fight to be understood because they understand themselves. They do not demand love because they already embody it. When they walk away, they do not do so to create distance, they do it to protect peace. And in their peace, others feel the absence not as punishment, but as presence, an echo of strength that cannot be forgotten. To be whole without them is to live in alignment with your own truth. It is to stop waiting for closure and give it to yourself. It is to stop expecting apologies and create peace within your heart. It is to stop replaying what went wrong and start building what feels right. the world begins to respond differently to a person who is not waiting for someone else to make them feel complete. Your glow does not come from attention. It comes from the harmony between your mind and your soul. It comes from knowing that love shared is a choice, not a need. It comes from releasing the illusion that your value depends on how someone else sees you. When you are whole, you no longer fear losing anyone because you have already found yourself. And when you no longer fear losing, you become free. That freedom radiates. It becomes felt, not explained. And that feeling is what people remember when you are gone. To be missed, you must be whole without them. Not because you disappeared, but because you existed so completely that your absence became a mirror for others to see what they lost within themselves. You become a reminder, not of what they had, but of what they could have become if they had chosen wholeness too.